sentence I never thought I would say. Tim Duncan has the winningest record of any head coach in the NBA today. Okay, it's a very, very small sample size, but Tim is indeed batting 1,000, a perfect 1-0 after coaching the Spurs to a victory after he stepped in for Gregg Popovich last night. This is notable because there has been increasing speculation that Pop, who missed last night's game for personal reasons, may finally decide to retire in the next year or two. Could Tim Duncan, one of the most reluctant superstars the NBA has ever seen, actually replace him? Can you see him talking to the press daily, yelling at officials, delivering fiery speeches in the locker room? This is a man who shows such little outward emotion that when he played ball at Wake Forest, the Duke student section used to trash talk him by calling him Spock. If you had told me that after Duncan retired, the only public place we ever saw him again would be his Hall of Fame ceremony, I would have believed you. Instead, Duncan has remained visible. First, he was, helping out around the Spurs practices. Then this season, he officially became an assistant coach. And Pop has pushed him right to the front of the group. Becky Hammon is in her 6th season as a Spurs assistant. Will Hardy is in his 4th. Yet it was the newbie Duncan who Pop handed his clipboard to back in November when he was ejected from a game. And it was Duncan again who got the call yesterday in Charlotte, coaching against one of his old coaches, James Borrego, on the second night of a back-to-back. Duncan said he only found out he was doing the job in the morning. But he looked calm and comfortable the whole night, even after the Spurs fell down by as many as 17. Now, with just over 9 minutes left in the game, Duncan even had the confidence to make a coach's challenge. He didn't win it, but by then the Spurs had battled back enough. They actually had a lead in the game's final minutes, and they were able to withstand Charlotte making one last run. So this all started with this nice bucket from Terry Rozier. This made it a 1-point game with just 42 seconds on the clock. But first, DeMar DeRozan, no. And then Cody Martin, no, you got to catch that pass. They botched plays around the basket, so boom, Spurs win. Afterward, Duncan did what Tim Duncan always does. He gave everyone else credit as he talked about his big night.
Night and day to be in the big boy chair, but truth be told, I wasn't in the big boy chair. We've got Becky and Will and Mitch. Mitch prepped the game for us. Becky and Will were making all the calls, and I was the only one just standing there screaming at people, nonsensical stuff. So we did it coach by committee, and it could have been any one of us up there, and we'd have done exactly the same stuff.
If you think it's weird seeing Tim Duncan chatting away like that in the year 2020, well, you're not the only one. Here's a tweet from his longtime girlfriend showing their daughter just gazing up at Daddy, really sweet, on the TV screen. But his girlfriend writes, "We were all shocked he did media. We all are, even the toddler." And she's right. That part of last night is not something we would ever expect. The win, on the other hand, gritty, come from behind, well, that's just what Tim Duncan does. 5-time champ, soon-to-be Hall of Famer, and now the winningest coach in the NBA this season. May his record stay forever perfect. Brian, do you see Tim Duncan? Could he be? Is this possible that he could be the ultimate successor to Gregg Popovich in San Antonio? Is it even remotely possible?
I would be very surprised if that was the case. I was stunned that Tim came and took this job as a on-the-bench assistant. I could definitely see him working with them for a long time. This is just kind of out of character for him. Not that he couldn't do the job, it just has so many requirements that don't fit into his comfort zone from a guy who doesn't need anything to prove. It is a younger coaching staff than Pop has had. I mean, Pop...
That's because all of his assistants have gone on to be head coaches at other teams.
Right. That's right. So, there's been a lot of people who thought that Pop was going to move aside, who sat on that bench, who moved on.
Yes.
And, when the job comes open, I think they will have a long list of people to choose from. I'm not saying Tim won't be on that list. I would just be stunned if he was near the top.
One of the things that was interesting when he spoke to the media, as we were all so shocked by, was afterwards, one guy asked him sort of a longer range question. He said, "What are you here for? To talk about the game or something else?" He said, "I'm doing this for fun." He made it clear that this was a bit of a one-off, but I got to say, I was a bit surprised that Becky Hammon didn't get this shot. I thought it was something that, considering how we've seen the tracking going from where she's been, what's been said, how everybody has lauded the Spurs for putting her in this position, and the work she's done to be there that she deserves, that she didn't do it. And I'm not saying I was disappointed, but it seemed odd that Duncan was, for somebody who was admittedly just there as kind of a figurehead, even though we know who he is, that she didn't get the position to do that, and we'll see what happens going down the line depending on what Pop decides. But overall, I think it was a fun night, and everybody from the Spurs can look at it as a fun little experience.
I think it's interesting too because look, as I said, she's been there for 6 seasons. She coached the Spurs Summer League team, and they won Summer League, right?
Exactly.
So she has a little bit of a track record with that. But we also know that Pop, his vision and sort of his acceptance of people, he's the one who put her in this position in the first place.
Certainly.
So I don't have any reason to doubt him about why he's doing or not doing with her. Maybe he just decided for some reason that Tim Duncan brings the credentials of being a 5-time NBA champion, and no matter whether you've worked for 6 years or coached the Summer League team, having him in the front means
They made an
something.
organizational decision that Tim Duncan was going to be the coach when Pop was not the coach.
Yes.
When Pop was ejected from that game,
That's right.
a lot of people said, well, was this Becky coaching the team? And after the game, they said Tim Duncan was in charge. They made it clear that that's the organizational decision.
But not in an Al Haig way. Just, just
I don't know Al Haig.
so young, so very young. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.